Some horror stories are so bizarre, so unsettling, that they sound made up. Until you realize they were posted by real people, recounting real events that changed their lives forever. These aren't urban legends or creepypasta fiction. These are raw, disturbing accounts from Reddit threads where truth is stranger and far scarier than fiction. You might laugh at the first one, question the second, but by the fifth, you'll double-check that your doors are locked. Story 1. The Man in the Crawlspace. It started with a smell. Jenna, a 26-year-old software developer, had just moved into her new rental home in Tacoma, Washington. It wasn't a glamorous place, small, older, slightly rundown, but it was affordable, quiet, and tucked in a suburban neighborhood filled with other modest homes and lots of trees. She lived alone, save for her cat Pickles, and had been settling in for just over 2 weeks when she noticed the odor. Faint at first, like damp earth or rotting wood. She thought maybe it was mold or the garbage, or even something the cat had dragged under the couch. But no matter how much she cleaned, aired out, or lit candles, the smell didn't leave. It got worse. Then there were the noises. Scratching. Soft thuds. A dragging sound that seemed to come from under the floorboards in the hallway. At first, Jenna chalked it up to old pipes or animals beneath the house. But Pickles started reacting too, staring at the floor and growling, his back arched, tail fluffed. One night around 2 a.m., she heard what she swore was a cough coming from beneath her bedroom. A dry, human cough. Jenna froze. Her heart pounded so hard it made her ears ring. She sat up in bed, holding her breath, listening. Silence returned. She told herself she must have imagined it. Maybe it was from outside. The next day, she told her friend Kelly about it over coffee. "You should check your crawl space," Kelly said. "I read a story about someone who found a guy living under their house for weeks. People are messed up." Jenna laughed it off. That sounds like Reddit horror bait. Still, curiosity, or paranoia, got the better of her. That evening, she grabbed a flashlight and knelt by the hatch to the crawl space outside the back of the house. She had never opened it before. The wood was damp and heavy, and the metal latch squealed as she pulled it up. The stench hit her instantly. It was worse than anything she'd ever smelled. Putrid, sour, a mix of mildew and something deeply wrong. Holding her breath, she shined the flashlight into the space. Cobwebs, dirt, pipes, and then movement. Something darted out of the light. She fell backward with a gasp, heart racing. For a moment, she thought it was an animal, but then she saw it. Fingers. Pale, dirt-covered fingers disappearing behind a stack of old insulation boards. She screamed and ran. She locked the door, called 911, and waited with a kitchen knife in her trembling hands until officers arrived. The police searched the crawl space and found him, a man in his late 40s, filthy, barefoot, dressed in a stained hoodie and cargo pants. He didn't resist. He barely spoke. According to the police report, he'd been living there for at least 2 weeks, possibly longer. He had food wrappers, water bottles, a sleeping bag, even a stolen photo of Jenna taken through her bedroom window. She hadn't even known she was being watched. There were signs she had overlooked. Missing snacks, the porch light bulb unscrewed, the weird sense that something was off in the house. At one point, she'd thought she left the bathroom door open and returned to find it shut. Small things. Easy to ignore, until they weren't. The police said there were no signs of forced entry, meaning he may have crawled out at night, moved through the house while she slept, and then slipped back beneath the floorboards before morning. The man was identified as Charles Emery, a transient with a long history of breaking and entering. He had been arrested multiple times for trespassing, stalking, and in one case, indecent exposure. But nothing had ever stuck. Jenna couldn't sleep for days. Even after changing the locks, installing security cameras, and moving into a new apartment within a month, she kept checking under her bed, in closets, and especially under the floor. She couldn't stop imagining the sound of fingers brushing against the underside of the wooden planks below her bed. A few weeks later, Kelly sent her a Reddit link. It was a thread in r/creepystories titled, "AMA, I lived in someone's crawl space for 3 months." The account was deleted shortly after, but Jenna managed to screenshot a few lines. One post said, "You'd be surprised how easy it is. People are too busy with their lives. They don't look down. They don't listen at night. If you move slow enough, you can live right beneath them. You become part of the house." Another read, "The girl had a cat, It knew. Animals always know. She deleted the screenshots. She blocked the subreddits. She donated pickles to her brother, unable to live with the constant tension of the cat's sudden stares at empty corners. But sometimes, when she's lying in bed late at night in her new apartment, far from that house, Jenna swears she still hears it. The soft scrape of movement just below the floor. Story 2. The Forgotten Baby Monitor. When Amanda and Tyler bought the old farmhouse in rural Pennsylvania, they knew it needed work. The foundation was solid, the roof recently replaced, and the property stretched out over 3 peaceful, wooded acres. It was the kind of place they had dreamed of raising their newborn daughter, Ellie. The house had been on the market for nearly a year. The previous owners were an elderly couple who moved to Florida. They'd left behind a few pieces of furniture, some broken tools in the shed, and in the nursery upstairs, a dusty battery-operated baby monitor still plugged into the wall. Amanda found it while organizing Ellie's clothes. The receiver was ancient, probably early 2000s, yellowed with age and humming faintly. She chuckled, unplugged it, and set it aside. They had a modern Wi-Fi monitor with night vision and a built-in lullaby feature. Still, there was something quaint about the old device. Before tossing it out, she held it up to Tyler. "This thing looks like it's from a horror movie," she joked. Tyler agreed and left it on the shelf in the nursery closet. For the next few weeks, life was peaceful. The renovation projects were coming along. Amanda's mother visited often to help with Ellie. The only odd thing was the sound, a faint static hum they occasionally heard through the baby monitor. It wasn't constant, and it didn't interfere with the video. Just a low buzz, like interference. Then one night, Amanda woke up at 3:12 a.m. to the sound of a soft voice. At first, she thought it was the monitor's lullaby function accidentally triggered, but the words didn't match any of the pre-recorded songs. The voice was male, gentle, whispering something indecipherable. She leaned over, picked up the monitor from her nightstand, and stared at it. The screen showed Ellie sleeping peacefully. No movement, no one else in the room, but the voice continued, soft, rhythmic, almost soothing. Amanda nudged Tyler awake. He listened for a moment, then frowned. Is someone talking to her? He grabbed his phone and opened the app connected to their monitor. The room was empty. Ellie was asleep, untouched, no sign of anything unusual. Amanda turned off the monitor, unsettled. The next morning, she checked the closet. The old baby monitor was gone. She hadn't touched it. Tyler hadn't either. Neither had her mom. They searched the nursery, then the rest of the house, thinking maybe Ellie's grandma had moved it while cleaning. But it was nowhere. Eventually, they brushed it off. Maybe someone threw it away by accident. 2 nights later, Amanda heard the whisper again, but they had turned off the monitor. Now it was coming from the wall, specifically the vent near the floorboards just beneath Ellie's crib. Amanda stared at it for a long time, then walked toward it and crouched down. The voice stopped. Only static remained. She woke Tyler and they removed the vent cover, expecting to find a small speaker or maybe an animal nesting inside. Instead, they found something far worse. Another monitor, the same model, old, yellowed plastic, covered in dust. It was on. It had been on the entire time, and it wasn't theirs. Amanda was shaking as she unplugged it. The couple drove to the nearest dumpster at a gas station and threw the monitor away. That night, neither of them slept. In the morning, they contacted the previous owners. The old man was confused at first, then distant. "There shouldn't be anything left behind," he said. "We packed everything." Amanda hesitated, then asked, "Did you ever use a baby monitor in that house?" There was a pause, a long one. "We didn't have kids," the man finally said. "The house belonged to my brother before us. He lived alone." They pressed him for more, and eventually the truth emerged. The brother had been mentally unwell. He developed an obsession with surveillance, installed hidden cameras, microphones, even baby monitors. Especially baby monitors. He would talk to them, whisper to them, said he was keeping something calm. After he died, the old couple moved in but claimed to have cleared everything out. Amanda and Tyler were left disturbed, but relieved to know it was all in the past. Until the following week. Ellie had started crying more often, at night only, always at exactly 3:12 a.m. Amanda checked the baby monitor every time, but it was always the same. Ellie screaming, alone, no movement. Then, one night, Amanda stayed in the room with her, determined to catch whatever was happening. She sat in the rocking chair, the house dark and quiet. 3:12 a.m. Ellie whimpered softly in her crib, and then Amanda heard it. A whisper, not from the monitor, not from the vent, but from the baby monitor app on her phone. It wasn't on. The app was closed. But the phone vibrated in her lap, lit up, and began playing sound, soft whispering, the same male voice saying over and over, "You can't stop me. I've always been here." Amanda screamed. Tyler ran in, but by then the sound had stopped. The app was closed again. The baby was still crying. They left the house that night. Later, they brought in a tech expert, one of Tyler's friends who worked in security systems. He searched the house, and in the attic above the nursery, he found it. A tiny camera. Old. Analog. Covered in dust. It was wired through the wall. Powered through a battery pack that had somehow lasted who knows how long. But the creepiest part was the second monitor unit, exactly like the others, tucked under the insulation. It was still receiving power. Still connected. Still. They destroyed it, burned every piece in a metal barrel outside. They even moved Ellie's crib to their own room and sealed the nursery for good. Months passed. Things quieted down until Amanda got a new phone, brand new, unlinked to the monitor app, and on the second night with it, at exactly 3:12 a.m., it buzzed. No number, no ID, just a notification. Audio connected. And in the silence, she heard the voice again. Faint, far away, but closer than it should have been. Story 3. He knew my name. It was the summer after my first year of college, and I had just moved back in with my parents in a sleepy town nestled in the Colorado foothills. I hadn't wanted to come home, but my student loans said otherwise. I picked up a night shift job at a gas station off the interstate, the kind of place that never closes and always smells faintly of bleach and burnt coffee. The job was dull but easy. Stock shelves, man the register, try not to fall asleep. Most nights were quiet. I'd see the same truckers, a few night owls, maybe a drunk or two stumbling in after the bars closed. Nothing too weird. That changed the night the man walked in and said my name. He didn't look like much. Medium height, scruffy beard, baseball cap pulled low over his face. He wore a brown windbreaker, even though it was nearly 80 degrees. He didn't take anything from the shelves, just wandered the aisles slowly. I remember glancing up from the register, watching him drift between the rows like he was waiting for something. Then he stopped. He looked up at the security camera in the far corner, smiled, actually smiled, and turned toward the register. "Hey, Alex." I froze. My name tag wasn't on. I had forgotten to clip it on after taking my break. I was sure of that. And even if I hadn't, he said it so casually, like he wasn't reading it, like he knew it. I tried to play it cool. "Hey, can I help you?" He didn't answer. Just looked around the store, then leaned on the counter, too close. "I remember when you were 5, he said. "You used to pick the marshmallows out of the cereal before you poured the milk. Your mom hated that." The air turned cold. I hadn't thought about that in years, hadn't told anyone that. My stomach clenched. "Have we met?" He chuckled, like it was a private joke. "Not yet." That was the moment I noticed something else. The security monitor behind the counter, he wasn't on it. The other camera feeds were fine. Aisle 1 showed the soda fridge, aisle 2 the candy rack, aisle 3 empty. But I was staring directly at him. A chill ran up my spine. I looked back at him. He was smiling wider now. "I used to watch you," he said. "Before the cameras. Before you knew what fear really was." I took a step back. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." He didn't move. "I know you think I'm just some crazy guy," he said. "But I promise, I've known you a long time, since before you were born. I watched your mother before she had you, and I'll be there the day you die." I grabbed the phone to call the cops. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped it. When I bent to pick it up, he was gone. Just like that. No chime from the door. No footsteps. Nothing. The only sound was the hum of the fridge and my own ragged breathing. I checked the monitors again. Still nothing. No sign he had ever been there. I locked the door, even though we technically weren't allowed to. Sat behind the counter until my shift ended at 6 a.m., jumping every time the lights flickered or a car drove by. When my manager came in, I told her what happened. She pulled up the camera footage. We watched the whole thing together. From 2:13 a.m. to 2:19 a.m., the camera at the front counter recorded me talking to nobody. Just me, standing there, talking, backing away, grabbing the phone and ducking out of frame. She asked if I was on something. I wasn't. I never touched anything stronger than aspirin. I called my mom later that day just to hear her voice. I asked her about the cereal thing. She laughed and said I hadn't done that since kindergarten. I didn't go back to that job. I couldn't. Something about that man, or whatever he was, stuck in my head. He didn't just know me. He knew my life, knew things I had long forgotten, things no stranger should ever know. I tried to tell myself it was stress, maybe a hallucination. But here's the thing. Last week I was walking home from class. It was late, and campus was mostly empty. I took a shortcut through the side street behind the science building, the way I always do. Halfway down, I felt that same cold chill. Looked up and saw him. Same jacket, same beard, just standing under a street lamp, staring at me. He didn't move, didn't smile this time, just stood there. And I swear to you, his mouth moved. He said my name again. But this time, I didn't hear it with my ears. I felt it in my bones, like a whisper that came from inside my own skull. I ran. Haven't slept much since. I moved apartments. I changed my routine. But sometimes when I turn off the lights, I swear I hear breathing, or the faint sound of cereal crunching, or worse, my name. Not out loud, but inside. And I don't think I'm alone anymore. Story 4. The locked room in Grandma's basement. When my grandma died, I was the only one willing to go back to her old farmhouse to sort through her things. My mom refused to set foot there again, and my uncle hadn't been seen since 1998. So it fell to me, a broke graduate student desperate for some inheritance money and maybe a quiet weekend away. The farmhouse sat at the edge of a thick forest in upstate New York, wrapped in the stillness that only places untouched by time can wear. I hadn't visited since I was 8, and stepping inside felt like opening a time capsule. Everything was as I remembered: the dark wood furniture, the smell of lavender and mothballs, the grandfather clock in the hallway that ticked 3 seconds too slow. But the basement. The basement was different. Growing up, the basement was strictly off limits. Grandma used to say, "There are things in this world best left undisturbed." That was her answer every time I asked about the heavy iron door tucked into the far wall, the one with no handle, only a keyhole the size of a nickel. It was always locked, always cold to the touch, even in July. On my first night there, after sorting through boxes of old linens and yellowing photographs, I found a key in her nightstand. It was old, brass, long, ornate. I didn't recognize it at first, but as soon as I held it, a memory came rushing back. Me, age 6, watching Grandma polish it while muttering under her breath, then quickly hiding it in her apron when I entered the room. She never mentioned it again. The next morning, curiosity got the better of me. I brought the key down into the basement. The iron door looked even more out of place than I remembered, like something out of a medieval dungeon. I slid the key into the lock. It fit perfectly. With a groan of metal, the door creaked open. Inside was a narrow room, maybe 10 feet wide, completely lined with mirrors. Old, warped mirrors covered every inch of the walls and ceiling. The only thing in the room was a wooden rocking chair, positioned in the center, facing a blank spot in the mirrors where one had clearly been removed. Dust lay thick on the floor, but the air didn't smell like rot or mold. It smelled like static, like a thunderstorm waiting to happen. I stepped inside, every hair on my body standing on end. The door slammed shut behind me. At first, I thought it was just old hinges or a draft, but when I tried to open it again, it wouldn't budge. The key turned freely in the lock, but the door stayed shut. That's when I noticed something else. The mirrors didn't reflect properly. They showed the room, but not me. I looked into the mirror across from me and saw the chair, the walls, even the door. But where I should have been standing was just empty space, and then something moved in the reflection. Not me, not behind me, just a flicker in the mirror, like a shadow slithering just out of view. I spun around. Nothing. But when I looked back, the reflection had changed. The rocking chair was now slowly moving. Creak, creak, I backed up to the door, heart pounding, hands scrambling at the lock. No matter how I twisted or yanked, the door stayed shut. Then I heard it, a voice, faint, like it was underwater. "Don't look away." I froze. The voice wasn't coming from behind me. It was coming from the mirrors. I turned around slowly. All the mirrors were flickering, like TV screens with bad reception, and in every single one, the rocking chair was now occupied. By her, my grandmother, but not as I remembered her. This version of her was gaunt, her skin almost gray, eyes pitch black and sunken like twin pits. She stared directly at me from every mirror, her head tilting slowly, in perfect unison across the reflections. "You shouldn't be here," she hissed. I couldn't move. My legs felt bolted to the ground. "You opened it. Now you see." The mirrors began to tremble, and cracks formed along their edges. Her voice grew louder. "You opened the door. Now something else can come through." The cracks widened, spiderwebbing outward until shatter. The mirror directly in front of me exploded. Glass shards flew past my face, and behind the broken frame there was no wall, only a void. A gaping blackness that felt alive, pulsing with soundless screams. Something began to crawl out. It was long, boneless, wet. Pale hands gripped the sides of the frame, and a head emerged. No eyes, no mouth, just smooth skin stretched too tightly over a skull. I ran. I threw myself against the door, screamed, begged, kicked. Behind me, I heard the wet slapping of limbs against concrete. The thing was dragging itself across the floor. Just as it reached me, the door opened. I fell through, landing hard on the basement floor. The iron door slammed shut on its own, nearly taking my foot with it. I didn't look back. I locked the door, ran upstairs, and didn't stop until I was outside. I slept in my car that night, engine running, doors locked. The next day, I called a contractor to seal the basement entirely. Paid out of pocket. Didn't care. Didn't explain. I told my mom the place was falling apart and not worth salvaging. I sold it a month later, dirt cheap. But here's the thing. Last night, I was unpacking some boxes I'd taken from the house, old photo albums, keepsakes. One box I didn't recognize. Inside was the key. And a note. It was written in Grandma's handwriting, shaky but unmistakable. "If the door opens again, do not go in. If you hear your name from the mirror, do not answer. You let it see you once, it never forgets." I haven't slept since, and sometimes when the lights are off, I think I hear the sound of a rocking chair. Creak, creak, creak. Story 5. The man who asked for the wrong name. I used to work at a gas station off a quiet, nearly forgotten highway in northern Pennsylvania. The place wasn't much, a single pump, a dingy convenience store, and a cramped booth that reeked of burnt coffee and stale cigarettes. The kind of place you'd never stop unless you had no other choice. I worked the graveyard shift, midnight to 8 a.m. alone. Nothing ever happened out there, until the night he came in. It was around 3:17 a.m., dead quiet outside. I was halfway through a crossword puzzle, sipping lukewarm coffee, when the bell above the door jingled. I looked up and saw a man step in. He wasn't soaking wet, but his coat looked damp, as if he had walked through fog or mist. His boots left faint tracks on the grimy floor, and he moved like someone who wasn't in any hurry. He didn't grab snacks or smokes. He didn't head toward the bathroom like most nighttime drifters. He just walked up to the counter and stared at me. And then he said, "Is Harold here tonight?" His voice was wrong. That's the only way I can describe it. Too flat, like someone imitating human speech but missing the rhythm. I blinked at him. I'd worked every shift for the past 2 weeks. I didn't know any Harold. "No one named Harold works here," I said. "Just me tonight." He tilted his head a little. "Are you sure?" "Yeah," I replied. "Pretty sure." He just stood there, still as a statue. His eyes never blinked. His skin was pale but not sickly. Just blank, like someone forgot to finish drawing his face. I glanced at the clock. 3:19 a.m. "Maybe Harold left something here," he said. "Something that doesn't belong." Now I was getting nervous. I'd had weirdos come in before, but this guy had a quiet menace to him, like he knew something I didn't. "I don't know any Harold," I repeated. He smiled then. But it wasn't a smile of understanding. It was like watching a mannequin stretch its lips. Mechanical, cold, practiced. "Maybe you do," he said. "Maybe he just changed his name." I wanted to laugh, or at least scoff, but then he did something that made my stomach twist into knots. He said, "Didn't you used to go by Harry?" I froze. That was my name when I was a kid. My parents called me Harry, short for Harrison. But I hadn't gone by that name in nearly 15 years, not since I left home. I hadn't told anyone here, not even on my job application. "Who told you that?" I asked. He just smiled wider. I took a step back from the counter. My heart was thudding in my chest, my mouth dry. "You need to leave." but he didn't move. Harry, I think Harold is ready to come back. He's been waiting. I don't know what came over me. I bolted to the back room, slammed the door, and grabbed the landline. I called the sheriff's office and stammered something about a trespasser. They said they'd send someone over. I waited in the back room, trying to breathe quietly. I didn't hear the bell jingle. No footsteps. Nothing. After 15 minutes, I cautiously peeked out. He was gone. No sign of him. But something on the counter caught my eye. A piece of paper. It was yellowed, like it had been torn from an old phone book or record. My name, Harrison R. Blake, was scribbled across it in messy handwriting. Below that, just one line. You were never supposed to forget. The sheriff showed up 10 minutes later, found nothing. No footprints, no evidence anyone had been there. Just me, shaking like a leaf. I didn't go back to work the next night. I couldn't. I tried to shrug it off, tell myself it was just some lunatic playing mind games. But then things started happening. I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photo of me. As a kid, sitting on the front porch of my childhood home, I hadn't seen that photo in decades. It had burned in a house fire when I was 14. Next came the dreams, always the same. I'm walking down a hallway lined with mirrors, all reflecting different versions of me. Some older, some younger, some wrong. In the center, a door. Behind it, a voice calling, "Harold, are you ready?" I started digging. I went back to my hometown, looked up old records, found something I'd never known. I was a twin. My parents never told me. But there it was, Harold Blake, stillborn according to the record, buried in the local cemetery. I visited the grave, a simple headstone, no flowers, no photos, just Harold R. Blake. Born and died March 19th, 1995. I was born on March 19th, 1995. The night that man came to the gas station, it was March 19th. I can't explain any of this. I don't know who or what came looking for Harold. I don't know why it thought I was him. Or maybe I was. Maybe I was supposed to be the one who died. But here I am, still breathing. And sometimes when I close my eyes at night, I hear it again, that flat, inhuman voice. You were never supposed to forget. If these stories made your skin crawl or had you double-checking the locks on your doors, you're not alone. Reality often hides its darkest moments in the most ordinary places, and Reddit has a chilling way of pulling them into the light. Whether it's a stranger who knows too much, a presence lurking just out of sight, or a memory that never should have returned, these tales remind us that true horror doesn't always come from fiction. Stay safe out there, because sometimes the scariest things are the ones that actually happened